I'm Leah Lawrence.
And I'm her husband, Mitch Lawrence.
And you are listening to the Southern Spirits Podcast, where I regale my husband with Southern stories of the macabre, creepy, and strange.
And I drink.
So what are we drinking tonight, Mitch?
Well, my throat's already fucked up. Anyway, we've got Blind Pirate Blood Orange IPA from Monday Night Brewing in Atlanta, Georgia. It's 7.4% alcohol by volume, and nothing on the can's worth talking about, so let's read the online description. A juicy IPA. Pirates love citrus fruits almost as much as they love blood. If the phrase "you are what you eat" is true, then pirates are blood oranges. If the phrase "you are what you drink" is true, you're about to be an incredibly delicious, juicy hop bomb of an IPA. We add bits of real blood orange to every beer, so you know it's good. And personal review section. I love this. It's delicious, but it is crazy bitter. So if you're not a bitter beer fan, proceed with caution. But I am, so it's wonderful. It's real juicy on the front and then real bitter on the back. It's nice and smooth. And that high alcohol content, I always love a nice high alcohol beer. So I love it. I gave it a 9.5 out of 10. Leah did not like it as much as I did. What do you have to say?
Buh.
Okay, moving on. Again, it's really good. If you like the Monday night stuff, all of their cans have, like neckties on them, every one of them, and they're just different colors of neckties and with cool little designs on them. And they're easy to find. Try to find this one if you like IPAs. I love it.
Don't.
I love it. They also have a litany of other good selections, so just try them out if you can.
They make some stuff that I really like, but that is not one of them. It is, I was like, oh, this is pleasant, and then it hit me with like the most bitter thing, and my face just contorted, and I can't do it. And I like bitter stuff, but that's extra.
It is very bitter.
It's like, oh, orange bitter, and I just not for me.
I like it a lot. But it is to each their own here around these parts. Our shot in the dark for the night. It's Shelta Cavern Spirits Vodka. We've had it on a couple of times before. There's a reason that we're using it a third time, and I'll get there very shortly. It's distilled and bottled by Straight to Ale Brands Incorporated in Huntsville, Alabama. It's 40% alcohol by volume, and refer to episode number 47, which was titled Ladyfingers, for the full review. The reason that we're drinking it again is because we bought a giant, like a ballpark-sized jar of whole pickles, Mount Olive whole pickles from North Carolina. We just wanted some pickles, and I love a whole pickle. I like them sliced too, but if it's a whole pickle, I'm in. I'm all about it. So Leah said, let's make some pickle juice martinis and use this Shelta Cavern Springs because we still have it.
Spirits.
Yeah, Shelta Cavern Spirits. You're right. I'm sorry. I don't know where I got that from. But she was completely right. This martini gets a 10 out of 10 easily. It is fan-fucking-tastic. And the vodka itself got a 9.5 out of 10 the first time we reviewed it. And we're going to stick with that because you can't just always have pickle juice. If you could, this world would be a much better place, I believe. But as of right now, it is a 9.5 out of 10 overall, but a 10 out of 10 in this pickle juice.
Yeah, and if you want to make a vodka pickle juice martini, you need Mount Olive pickle juice because, as I have, declared previously, Mount Olive pickles from Mount Olive, North Carolina are the best pickles that you can get, in my humble opinion. And I do a 1 shot of vodka to 3 shots of pickle juice and shake that over ice and strain, and I like it a lot. If you prefer more of a vodka flavor, you can go more vodka. If you prefer less vodka flavor, do more pickle juice. But to me, it's just, and the Shelta is a really nice, smooth vodka for, this purpose. So get you a nice quality vodka, pour some pickle juice on that shit, and drink it. It's wonderful.
You won't regret it. That much I
Or
can
you
promise.
Might if you don't like vodka or pickles. But in that case, why would you be drinking it in the first place?
Yeah,
Let's
just
be
don't
real.
do it at all then. Like, what are you doing? But yeah, that's it for the alcohols, Leah. What do we have next?
I guess we're going to go directly into a funny place name.
Okay.
And today we're going to the great state of Virginia, and we're going to be talking about Goose Pimple Junction.
Okay. This sounds just wonderful. I can't wait to hear about it.
This is one of those things that have one of those folktale stories that you're like, okay, really, why? But we're going for it. So It says via Wikipedia now, this may not be the most credible source, but it says, history, Goose Pimple Junction was so named when the domestic disputes of a couple in town were loud enough to give a neighbor goose pimples.
Okay. Well, quite the story. Quite the eventful story.
So, like, these two folk were just, like, fussing and cussing and discussing, and the neighbor was like, ooh, too much. And then so, like, I guess he told someone else, and they're like, oh, you got goose pimples? He was like, hell yeah, I got goose pimples.
I'm all hot and bothered over
You know
here.
what? I'm gonna call this entire fucking town Goose Pimple Junction. So,
all right. Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I know that story now.
And according to Wikipedia, its road sign is also a really popular visitors attraction, so people will take pictures in front of it, and people will also steal the sign because people always steal signs of funny named places. So,
yeah.
Goose Pimple Junction in Virginia. Go visit it. Bring me a postcard.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll be right back. You go ahead. Do this episode. See you later.
Bye.
Okay. Well, what do we have now?
All right. Well, we're going to go directly into our very first story of the evening. Are you prepared?
Yes, I'm very
because
prepared.
It mixes a murderess.
Oh, no.
And a haunting.
Oh, no.
So we're going to be talking about Tony Joe Henry and the Kalescu Courthouse haunting. You ready?
Right. Yeah, I'm so ready.
Okay. So the person that we're talking about is Tony Joe Henry. Now, she was born as Annie Beatrice McQuiston, which I don't blame her for changing her name. And she was born in Shreveport, Louisiana on January the 3rd of 1916. She was the middle child out of 5 kids, so not great. And so her mother actually was pretty ill when she was young, and she lived with her grandmother for a while. And eventually her mom ended up dying of tuberculosis when she was 6 years old. So after that happened, she was sent to live with her father and stepmother, who she didn't really care for because her dad was kind of abusive. So Henry, Tony Joe Henry, I guess she was still Annie Beatrice McQuiston at this point. But anyway, she got sent to work part-time at a macaroni factory when she was like 13 years old.
There are whole factories to make one noodle?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
You'd think it'd be like a pasta compound, and there's like a macaroni
dye
by itself over there, and then there's like a fettuccine over here and a bow tie over this way.
Yeah, if y'all have never watched how it's made and watched like pasta extrusion, like that is some of the most satisfying footage ever. I just love watching it because the little blade cuts off the little elbow macaronis. It's really fun to watch. I'm sorry, I'm mildly obsessed with how it's made, but
not an okay time to use the word extrusion.
I'm sorry.
I'm very uncomfortable.
All right, well anyway, so the factory owner or the manager found out that she had tuberculosis in her family, and that's really spreading and all of that stuff. And I mean, I don't think she had it, but he was paranoid enough to fire her. So at 13 years old, she goes home and she has to tell her family, hey, I got fired because my mom died of tuberculosis years ago. And the dad was real pissed off. And so he beat her like very, very severely for losing her job, which was not her fault,
Well,
and so she was like, fuck this shit. I don't like that guy. We're not family anymore. And so she basically just ran away from home and ended up becoming a sex worker on the streets. At this point,
so the story has a happy ending.
Oh, no, it does not. So she changed her name to Tony Joe Hood, and she just became a sex worker on the streets of Shreveport. And eventually she got a job in a brothel, and, did that for a while. And she did end up becoming addicted to cocaine as well. And to sort of feed that habit, she became sort of a transient sex worker. And she worked parts of Louisiana and ended up in South Texas. So in 1939, she meets a man named Clyde Cowboy Henry.
That's cool.
Yeah, his nickname was Cowboy.
Yeah.
And he was one of her customers in Austin, Texas. So shot in the dark.
Okay, hold on. It's tough to reach those. The sound effects.
What was Claude Cowboy Henry's profession?
Cowboy.
Was he A, a ranch hand?
Mm-hmm.
Was he B, a pimp? Or was he C, a prize fighter?
Oh, okay. I am going to say, because I do have some sports knowledge, that he was a prize fighter.
You are correct.
Yay! I just figured, nicknames are a lot more of a thing in sports than like ranch handing. If you're out there on the ranch and they give you a nickname, it's normally something like Dick Face or something.
What?
Yeah. You don't know nothing about ranching, Leah.
I mean...
like I do. I'm such a ranching expert.
I grew up on a ranch and my great-grandfather was a cattle rancher, but whatever, it's
ranching expert. Me, myself. I'm a ranching expert. How's that vodka?
It's super smooth.
Well, because you're chasing it with pickle juice.
No, but I mean, like, the shot itself.
Uh-oh.
It makes you twitch afterwards. But going down, that is some of the smoothest vodka that you can get. I highly recommend it.
Mm-hmm. It's very good.
And it mixes great with stuff, yeah.
I'm not sure if it's sold very far outside of our area. Because it's a local brewery that also makes some spirits, but you can find it in, like, the Alabama liquor stores, so.
Yeah, and I've seen it on, like, the Tennessee state line and that. I don't know how far outside of Alabama that it's distributed, but if you can get yourself some, it is an excellent vodka. And they make rum and gin as well, which I don't think I've tried either of those, but except, like, at the bar there.
Yeah. Yeah, they make excellent fucking martinis and otherwise adult beverages with their own spirits.
Yeah, because there's a speakeasy inside their brewery, and if you can find it, which it's not hard, everybody knows where it's at, but if you end up at the speakeasy, their drinks are fantastic. But anyway.
I had one with a slice of fresh jalapeno a couple times, and y'all, that shit is good. Sounds weird, but I like a spicy drink. But, ooh, that's all I gotta say.
Anyway. So yeah, this guy, Cowboy, was in fact a prize fighter who apparently wasn't very good because he was kind of like out of money all the time. But anyway.
They called him Midnight Cowboy.
Probably not. But anyway, they fell in love and they got married on November the 25th of 1939.
Oh.
And they ended up going on to a honeymoon in Southern California. So they head out to California, they hang out down there, they honeymoon, and then they end up coming back from California back to Austin. Where, well, not Austin, I think it was Austin. Anyway, so as soon as they got back from California from their honeymoon, they were about to start married life, having a good time together. But it turns out that Claude Henry was wanted for the murder of a former San Antonio police officer named Arthur Sinclair. So as soon as he came back to Texas, he got arrested. And so he's arrested and he got tried and he was found guilty in January of 1940. And he was sentenced to 50 years in the Texas State Penitentiary in Huntsville, Texas. Wow. So Tony Joe was like, well, fuck. I'm a newly married woman. I've spent a couple of months with my husband and now he's in the fucking pen and I'm not ever going to see him again. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to fucking bust him out of that jail.
All right. I like this.
Tony Joe starts
making... She needed that dick so bad.
So bad. So Tony Joe was like, okay, I'm going to bust this bitch out. It's going to be great. And so she's like, I can't do it on my own. I've got to find someone that knows a little bit more about the prison itself. Someone who's a little bit more used to crime and shit. So she found and recruited an accomplice, and this guy's name was Harold Archie Burks, and he was an ex-con and army deserter, and he claimed that he knew the layout of the Huntsville Penitentiary very well, and he could help get her in. So to raise money for their jailbreak, I guess, they decided to...
Why did they need money for it again?
I don't know. I guess to get out there.
Like, did they start a GoFundMe for the jailbreak?
No, we'll
contribute to what's her name's
Tony Joe.
What's her name's campaign for breaking her husband out of prison. It was all over Facebook.
Yeah. So they decided to rob a bank to get money so they could break Claude Henry Cowboy out of jail. So they bribed some teenagers to break into a gun store and steal guns and ammunition for them. So they did that. And then they've got their guns and their ammunition, and they're hitchhiking, trying to get to the bank to rob it, I guess. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But anyway, a gentleman named Joseph P. Calloway was driving on the road. He had a car that he was delivering to a friend in Louisiana. And so he was driving, and he saw these two hitchhikers on the side of the road, and it was Tony Joe and Archie Burks. And
former sex worker, so she knew how to attract a car.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
And
hike
so
her leg up, show her kneecap.
He pulled over and offered to give the two a ride, and they were like, "Yeah, hell yeah, great." So they got in the car, and they were driving, and they end up driving past a town called Jennings, Louisiana. At this point, Tony and Archie were like, "Yep, let's do it." So they robbed Calloway at gunpoint, and they locked him in the trunk of his own car, and they started driving down an old country road. Now, this is what Mitch might like to refer to as a murder road.
Yeah, it's definitely
was
murder
remote.
road.
It was creepy. It was isolated.
It's a road for dumping a body.
Yeah. So they planned to use the car that they had stolen as a getaway vehicle. And they decided, though, that they couldn't leave any witnesses to this kind of, stealing this car, I guess. So they pulled over on this old country road, and they ordered Calloway to get out of the trunk, and they took him into a nearby field, and they told him to strip down because Tony Joe wanted clothes for her husband to change into after they broke him out of prison. So after he was naked, he was shot once in the head with a .32 caliber revolver, and he died, and they left his body in the field. So they get back in the car, and they're driving, and they reach Camden, Arkansas. And at that point, Archie was like, "Okay, look, this bitch is crazy. I didn't think we were actually going to kill people to do this. I think she's going to try to get rid of me if this doesn't work out very well. So I'm out." So he steals the car again, I guess. He takes the car and leaves her ass in Camden, Arkansas.
Cool.
Just whatever. So she's pissed off and ends up having to take a bus back to Shreveport. And once she's back in Shreveport, she finds her aunt, whose name was Emma, and she's like, "I need a place to live for a minute." And Emma's like, "Okay, fine." And she ends up confessing to her aunt that she had murdered a man near Lake Charles, Louisiana. And the aunt was like, "Oh, fuck no." So she talked to her brother, who was actually a Louisiana state trooper, and he ended up getting stuff together, and Henry was arrested. And she was interviewed by the Shreveport police, and she, in that interview, confessed to the murder, and she told them where to find the body. So they retrieved the body, and she was indicted on this murder, and she had a trial, and it was held from March the 27th to March the 29th of 1940 at the Kaleskew Courthouse. And Henry was
So that was right after he went into prison. Because it was January of 40.
Yeah, all this shit happened real fast in succession. It wasn't months and months of planning and shit. She was just "Oh fuck, we got to break him out now."
Yeah.
So
maybe she should have planned a little bit better.
A little bit, But Henry was a really attractive young woman, and the fact that there was the possibility of a death penalty for this charge, got the media really sort of geared up to cover it, and it was front page news all over the country. And she ended up claiming that Archie Burks was the one who actually fired the shot, and that she was definitely an accomplice, but she didn't do it exactly. You know what I mean? She was trying to lessen her sentence. But after the jury deliberated for 6 hours, they convicted her and sentenced her to death by hanging.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, and they also caught Archie Burks, and he was also convicted and sentenced to death.
They weren't using the electric chair by that time?
We're getting there.
Oh, yay.
So Tony Joe was like, okay, the media circus and stuff surrounding this really, was not good for me. So she appealed and got a new trial on the grounds that the publicity surrounding the trial had prejudiced the outcome of the trial. So on her second trial by jury, it was February of 1941, so the next year. And she ended up Archie Burks took the stand and testified against her, saying, this bitch is crazy. She's the one who shot this guy. I was in on it, but she was 100% the murderer. And so after an hour of deliberation only, she was once again convicted and sentenced to death. And she appealed one more time, and she was granted another new trial. And third time's a charm. If this one was held in January of 1942, and Tony Jo was convicted and sentenced to death once again. She appealed again, but her appeal was denied, and she appealed to the governor, for clemency, and that did not work either. So she was incarcerated at the Lake Charles prison, and she was waiting there, to, I guess, be executed.
Right.
Death row, I suppose. So while she was there, she was converted to Catholicism by a man named Father Wayne Richard.
This story has taken some weird turns.
Yeah, he baptized her in the prison. Yep. He would be the one that did her funeral. I don't know. That doesn't really have much to do with the rest of the story, but just aside, he was there. But anyway, so by the time that it actually came to execute her, they had changed their execution method from hanging to electrocution.
Right.
So on November the 28th of 1942, they had a portable electric chair brought into the Lake Charles prison, and it happened in the basement, and they set it up, and the...
You're doing great.
Hold on, I got confused.
I love those parts.
Sorry.
Love them.
But anyway, she was said to be, during her execution, the whole day, she was really calm. She was just hanging out and joking with the people. And she was joking, saying that she was waiting on the governor's call, and obviously that never came. The only time she ever showed any kind of emotion about what was about to happen was when they cut her hair off, because she was real pissed off about that. She
liked her hair.
She liked her hair. She wanted to die pretty. You know what I mean?
Well, don't you have to have your head shaved to be electrocuted?
Yeah, you have to have your hair completely shaved to be electrocuted that way. So she was basically executed by that. And just as an aside for the husband, so the husband ended up he
Cowboy.
broke out of cowboy. He broke out. It was 4 days prior to her execution date, and he broke out of prison on his fucking own, which he should have done in the goddamn first place. But anyway, he escaped from prison to go see his wife one last time before she was killed. But he was, recaptured a couple days later in Beaumont, Texas, and he never saw her again. He ended up being paroled because he was really sick in prison in 1945. But he ended up being shot and killed by a cafe owner when he was trying to rob it while he was out on parole. Yeah. But anyway, so she got executed there in the basement of the courthouse in Lake Charles, the Colescue Parish Courthouse. And her ghost is said to still haunt that courthouse to this day. They say that a woman's real raspy, husky kind of voice is heard in the distance, sort of as you're rounding a corner, you can hear a woman say stuff. They're not sure what she's saying, but you can hear that sort of tone.
So she had a raspy voice?
Yeah.
Was she a smoker?
A real deep, yeah, probably. And cocaine. I don't know how you do cocaine, but maybe that affected her voice.
You don't know how you do cocaine.
No, I don't. Don't you sniff it?
It gets snorted.
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
And it does, go down your throat. I've never heard of it causing throat issues, though, but I could definitely be wrong about that.
I have no idea.
I'm not a cocaine person myself. Never even tried it. So, I've just never heard of someone being like, I got throat cancer because I did too much coke. But that could definitely be a thing.
Who knows? But anyway.
I don't know.
So they hear her voice occasionally. They say that there is a rotating filing cabinet kind of thing that gets turned off and turned on and turned off and turned on. And that's really difficult because it's turned off and on with a key. And like when they turn it on, they like take the key out of it and store the key.
Just sounds like faulty wiring.
Maybe. And that everybody believes that that's Tony Joe just fucking around with the people there. There's a door to the entrance of the area that was where the execution took place. And now it's like a voter registration office. But they say that this door is supposed to be unlocked all the time during the day, and it's unlocked with a key, and the key is stored for the day. But they say that the door will like lock randomly in the middle of the day when no one's around, and they try to open the door, but it's been locked by this ghostly presence. And they say that they will see her apparition on the the staircases. And they will also occasionally hear a woman scream like she's being executed in the area. So
yeah,
that was Tony Joe Henry.
Yeah,
and the Kalesque County Courthouse.
That was enjoyable. I liked that story.
Good.
It was very fun. Well, in between stories here, we have another podcast ad to share with you. This is a show that sounds very interesting to me. It's called Copulators Die First. And it's not an AF one this time.
No, they review and talk about like horror movies and that kind of stuff. Yep. And I think it's really cool because I love horror movies. And I love the fucking name Copulators Die First.
Yes, I do too.
That's great.
All right, well, here's their ad.
Hey, I'm Ash.
I'm Nick.
And we're the hosts of Copulators Die First.
Do you like horror movies?
Do you like gay stuff?
Great, us too. And how convenient, because this is a gay horror comedy podcast.
Surprise! We are your weekly guide to all things campy and creepy.
Yas, work. Join us every Monday as we feature a new scary movie that we examine from our homosexual perspectives while reading them to filth.
And if you don't know what reading is, then you should tune in to find out.
So, get ready for a spooky old time, because nothing and no one is safe, especially those horny teenagers.
Wink. So grab a snack, get cozy, put on your reading glasses, and we'll guile you with tales of spooks and slashers.
Don't forget to look for us on all your favorite listening platforms, and follow us on Instagram at Copulators Die First Pod.
So, get ready, because we give Scream Queens a whole new meaning.
Tongue pop.
Okay, y'all go check them out. Leah, what about story number 2?
All right, well, we are going to be talking about the Wild Woman of Navidad.
All right. Like Feliz Navidad?
Yeah, exactly like that. It's a river in Texas. And it's not much of a river, honestly. It's not particularly pretty. It's not very long. It's not super wide. It's just a little river.
So it's a Christmas river? Is that what it is?
I have no idea. It's just called...
Navidad Christmas? I think it is.
I don't think it's actually like Christmas, but like the nativity.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't speak Spanish, and I only did a couple of semesters of Spanish in college, and I was real bad at it, so...
Spanish is kind of complicated.
Yeah, I got a BS instead of a BA because Spanish made my head go, But anyway, so yeah, the Navidad River stretches only 74 miles. So it's really not that long of a river, in river terms. It runs through Fayette County, Lavaca County, Colorado, and Jackson counties. And it ends up pouring into a sister river called the Lavaca. So, like I said, it's not, a huge river, and it is just a rainwater runoff. There's no spring that feeds it or anything. So, it's. I'm just saying it's a random river. It's not great. Sometimes it's gross. I don't know. But the entire area...
Sometimes it's gross.
Well, since it's fed by runoff, it can be clogged by silt or etc., stuff that runs into a river. But that's not super important, is it? I'm a little drunk, y'all. I had a shot of vodka, and I've almost finished my pickle martini, and I'm feeling it.
Oh, yeah. I forgot you had the first shot.
I sure did.
That's exciting for me.
Yeah. So, our story begins in 1837 on the banks of the Navidad River. It started shortly after Sam Houston and his army had fought and secured independence from Mexico for, the Texas settlement because they defeated Santa Anna at the Battle of San Jacinto. So after all of that happened, all of the settlers who fled from the area while Santa Anna's army was, advancing through the landscape, they had returned to their homesteads. They had rebuilt stuff. They were starting over. They had planted crops. They had started farms. This was really Texas starting out as Texas independently,
Mm-hmm.
So around that time, around 1837, they started seeing weird footprints that started showing up in various settlements along the Navidad River. And there were usually two sets of tracks. One pair was a little bit bigger than the others, and they were always barefoot tracks of vaguely human proportion.
What?
They looked like people feet for the most part, but a little bit strange. And they were always barefoot prints. It wasn't like people in shoes or anything like that. It was always these weird barefoot prints. And they assumed that it belonged to a male and female pair of some sort. And they appeared in sweet potato fields, corn fields, that kind of thing.
Oh,
and
they're having a picnic.
Definitely.
That's what they're doing. They're gathering veggies for a picnic.
Yeah, but when they saw these pairs, the surrounding crop had been disturbed. So they were taking sweet potatoes, they were taking corn, etc. while they were
getting
walking.
picnic supplies.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
And they seem to have taken a lot of effort to be discreet about stealing these crops, which obviously those people have guns. It's Texas, I know. So no one ever saw the pair. They were just this weird sort of urban legend almost, but they found the tracks and they knew someone was stealing these crops. But they avoided being detected. They avoided getting shot at. They were really quick and mysterious, and people started talking and wondering what the fuck these people or things could be and why they were so stealthy. They were like, maybe they're runaway slaves. Other people were like, maybe they're like children that had been separated from their family during the war and they had just become feral, creepy wolf children or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, people were like, maybe they're Native Americans that are just wandering around or etc.
Savages. Savages, am I right?
Barely even human. We must beat the drums of war.
No.
Sorry.
No. You stop it.
Y'all, my favorite thing in the world to do is to watch Pocahontas and play my Pocahontas drinking game. And anytime someone makes a racist comment, either direction, you drink. And during the song Savages, you will get trashed. Because it's 3 minutes of just chugging.
I have a couple different movie drinking games that I love. I've never done that one because I don't think I've ever even seen Pocahontas.
Really?
I really don't.
When I was a little kid, Pocahontas was my jam. I had a Pocahontas backpack. I had a Pocahontas, lunchbox with the thermos and everything. I had a Pocahontas alarm clock that was the loudest, most obnoxious bullshit in the world. It was wonderful.
Yeah. There are a couple different ones.
I even had the Pocahontas Barbie doll that would row its own canoe and you could stick it in the bathtub. Fuck, that was awesome.
There are a couple different movie drinking games that we used to do where it's always with beer. It's never taking shots ever because that's stupid.
It's always beer and
it's
a light
sipping.
beer if you can.
Yeah, it's always sipping. But there was a couple different instances of playing it with the word fuck. Boondock Saints was the big one in the fraternity house, but you could also do it with Goodfellas or The Departed. So anytime you hear the word fuck or any iteration of it, like fucking, fucker, anything like that, you sip. And for the longest time, Goodfellas was the movie that had the most instances of the word fuck in it. It's 169 or something like that. So yeah, you get a little fucked up doing that.
Yeah.
And it was great fun.
We drank to Disney movies because we were girls in a sorority,
because
and that's
you
what
were
we
dainty
loved.
ladies.
We were. So
we have to find a reason to drink and not just crass cuss words, you dumb savage boys.
Yeah, so if you any racist term in Pocahontas we drank, if you're watching Monsters Incorporated, anytime someone goes through the door, you have to take a drink. Anytime anyone goes through any door, okay, you take a drink. In Mulan, anytime the smoke in the background gets that weird like Asian pattern to it, you drink. That stereotypical like
I know
that swirly thing in the background. You take a drink, yeah. And sometimes we drank to Arthur just because it was fun.
Well, just because you liked watching Arthur.
Yeah, we just made margaritas and watched Arthur. Had the best sorority sisters. It was great. We were weird, but it was fun. But anyway, back to the story. Where was I? What was I talking about?
I don't fucking know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So there were lots of different, theories as to what these two entities, beings, or whatever, who was leaving the footprints. But none of them really made sense. None of them really had any weight over the others. They were just these weird barefoot tracks that they couldn't explain. And a couple of years passed, and the barefoot tracks of the bigger individual stopped being seen. But they kept seeing the smaller tracks continue, and they eventually assumed that the larger creature or the male of the couple had died. And they, in fact, actually found some skeletal remains of what they believed to be just a man. And they were found by local hunters when they were out, hunting for game. And they found the bones protruding from a pile of leaves and sticks from just a wooded area nearby the Navidad River. So they were like, okay, yeah, these remains were clearly the male of the couple, and, etc. So I don't think etc. is the right word for that, but I'm very tired. You did great, though.
You did great.
But anyway, so the tracks of the smaller creature actually continued to appear, and they appeared more often in like the potato fields around there, because apparently I would assume that the male of the couple was better at finding game and stuff like that, so she had to...
Well, that's sexist of you.
Well, I mean, that's just what the story is.
You're a sexist.
Probably. And
if the females would have been trained like the males, they would be just as good at finding the food, Leah.
I'm sure that's true.
At hunting the game.
Yes. But
and
anyway,
the men could gather berries.
Cool.
I'm just saying.
At any rate, she ended up having to steal more food from the local farmsteads and stuff like that. So eventually these people were like, look, we want to know what this thing is. And so maybe we could help her or it or something. So they made a plan. Mm-hmm. So several of the young men in the area decided to lie in wait and capture this wild lady.
Like just on the ground?
Yeah. So one night they hunkered down in a potato field amongst the potato plants, and she came, to steal a couple of potatoes for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And the night was real dark. It was a moonless night. And the men claimed that they could see a figure of a woman, and she didn't look like she had any clothes on.
Oh, hey.
And she was really cautiously approaching the potato field. And when she had gotten close enough, they sprang into action, and they tried to capture her with their bare hands. But she was fast as shit. Mm-hmm. She was very agile, and she dodged, and she ducked, and she weaved, and she ran.
And she dived, and she dodged.
Exactly. And she ducked away really quickly, and she ran back into the forest, and they never laid a hand on her. And they ended up, they didn't see after this, botched attempt at capturing her. They didn't see a sign of the wild woman for the next several months.
Was she super hairy or anything?
Well,
a Yeti?
We're getting there. It was too dark for them to really make out anything other than her silhouette that night.
So it was just a woman they accosted in a potato field.
Basically.
That's okay. Guys, you can't just go doing that. You can't go groping women, period. But, we should have had the Me Too movement back then. Because then, you can't just walk through a fucking potato field anymore now.
Yeah.
This is bullshit.
I agree.
I'm with you.
But anyway,
I got it.
The wild woman came back eventually, but she had sort of changed tactics. She continued to visit the potato fields at night, But she got bold. She started entering the cabins and the houses of these settlers on her visits. And the settlers thought that maybe she was just really desperate at this point because she was risking her life by entering these homesteads. And she entered the homesteads at night while the occupants were actually sleeping. I mean, once again, they have guns. It's Texas. They definitely have guns. It's a homestead. It's the prairie. They've got guns.
Like beside them while they're sleeping, though?
Most likely.
Maybe. You know, you always hear stories of people sleeping with a gun under their pillow, quote unquote. You know, maybe that was a thing back then.
And actually, all of the settlers in the area kept 1 or 2 big guard dogs on their homestead. And the dogs were basically alarm systems that, you know, if someone was on their property and they shouldn't be, the dog would like freak out. You know what I mean?
That's what Samus was bred for.
Yeah.
That fucking bitch barks at anything.
That's true.
Anything that moves that isn't me or Leah, she is raising hell.
Yeah, she's got those big old ears. She knows who's on the property. But and generally it wasn't to like keep people out. It was like there are wildcats, there are bears, there are a lot of like animals that could come in and like eat us. So it was more of a to keep wildlife out than it was anything. But weirdly enough, the wild woman was able to like just come in undetected. The dogs would never growl at her. The dogs would never bark when she entered the premises. She could kind of just like step over them really lightly.
She was part dog.
Come in. I don't know.
Yeah.
But she would take what she needed and she would get the fuck out of there. And it was reported that she would, if there was a bread loaf inside, she would tear the bread loaf in 2. She wouldn't take the whole thing. She would only take half of it. She took part of the food, but she would never come and take all of it. And it was always only food that she was after at this point. She had plenty of opportunity to take money, gold, silverware, guns, gunpowder, but she never did any of that. She only took just part of the food. And no one ever woke up during these intrusions. No dogs ever made so much as a little, you know, upon her, like, coming in. So, like, apparently she was stealthy as fuck. And everybody was, like, really superstitious and, like, freaked out and, like, what is she at this point? Maybe it's not, you know, maybe it's not human, I think is what they started to believe.
Okay.
And they started calling her, quote, the thing that comes, which sounds like a horror movie, and I like it.
Oh, hey there.
Yeah, the thing that comes. So
gross.
They discovered eventually that the wild woman was breaking into corn cribs and stealing a little bit of the corn at a time and leaving. So they were like, okay, maybe this is the way that we're going to finally catch her. So they got together and they staked out one of these corn cribs. So they got a guy sleeping in the corn crib, and then, well, not sleeping, but I mean, he was like sort of on watch, I guess, but he ended up sleeping. And his task was to, as soon as she comes in, like, basically close the door and slide it shut. You know what I mean? And they would capture her inside the corn crib. Well, it turns out that he had fallen asleep and he wakes to that rustling noise, and the wild woman had come to the corn crib and had started stealing corn. So he woke up and he started like getting ready to close the door and slide the bolt and call out to the people that were waiting to take her. Well, he was all of a sudden just overcome with this deep, unexplainable dread feeling, and he couldn't shake it, and he couldn't physically call out to anybody else, and he was like just super freaked out, and he just like sort of freaked out and started screaming because he was so afraid and freaked out. So as soon as he started making that noise, she bolted off really fast, and they couldn't get the door shut, couldn't catch her. The opportunity was gone. You know, she was not about to be cornered into the corn crib ever again. So at that point, a few years passed, and, you know, the wild woman was continuing to steal little bits of food here and there from homes and stuff like that. But, you know, at this point, she started taking other stuff. So a chain went missing, or a hacksaw went missing, forks went missing, pitchers went missing, just little objects here and there, nothing super valuable. but like things started to just disappear here and there to the point where, did I misplace it, or did someone steal it, or what's going on? And it continued to be that the dogs would never bark, never growl, never whimper. They never raised any kind of alert. Things just sort of started going missing. And it had been going on, all of this stuff had been going on about 8 years or so. And eventually they found this sort of camp in the woods, and it was a heavily wooded area near the river. And they found a bunch of the items that had gone missing from the homesteads over the last year or so. They found the plates, they found the forks, they found the pitchers, but they also found a Bible. And everybody was like, wow, can the wild woman read? Is she a Christian? What's going on?
Yeah,
like, maybe
well,
we
at least, yeah, we can't hate her too much anymore because she's like
Jesus.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they also did not find any clothing, and the only bed that was there was just sort of a nest made of a pile of moss and leaves. And so they were like, oh, we're so sad about this lady. Maybe if we capture her, we can help her out.
We can convert her for good to
yeah.
Christianity.
So they were like, all right, we're going to do this right this time. So they got all of the local men together, and they made a plan to capture this woman.
There's nothing like being a woman and have every man in town trying to capture you.
Yeah, sucks, right?
I wouldn't know. I'm just saying there can't be anything quite like that feeling of love that's just overflowing.
Yeah.
You know.
So a bunch of the hunters from the local area got together, and they made this extended line of people. They were basically flushing, like you would flush out wild game out of a bush. You know what I mean? They had a bunch
Using
of people on the
dogs and
ground.
shit.
They had dogs. They had people mounted on horses. And they tried a couple of times without success. They didn't find anything. But the hunters ended up finding sort of these fresh signs of where the wild woman had been. In the area. They found footprints and stuff.
You mean like poop?
No, I meant like footprints.
Okay.
And so they're like, okay, she's nearby. We're going to try this again.
I've got the wild woman scat right over here.
Gross. So that night, it was really bright, and they had the dogs out, and they were tracking a scent, and they started barking and baying, and they were like, okay, we're on her trail. We got this. So the hounds were on the track, and they had men on horses with lassos ready to go, and they sort of flushed her out of the timber line. And the wild woman of Navidad starts running, and she's trying to make it across, this open landscape into the wooded areas across. And so she ended up just running, and this rider on a horse, sort of ends up having to spur his horse to full speed gallop to try to catch this woman.
Oh, so she's fast
as shit.
She's Marion Jones on full steroids.
Like, it's bad.
I know that reference made no sense to you. I'm
not
sorry.
At all. But like, he kept having to, it was a full gallop just to get in range of this woman. So he tries to throw a lasso at her several times, but he misses. And he throws the lasso again, and he misses. And the horse, though, was just like, as soon as he got close enough, the horse shied away and like, I don't like whatever we're chasing. Like, fuck this shit. And so he ended up not being able to lasso her that night. And the hunters were really disappointed and like kind of pissed off that this guy couldn't lasso him. And the writer sort of described her that night because he had gotten a pretty good look at her. He said that she had really long hair, almost down to her feet, that sort of blew behind her as she ran. He said that she didn't have any clothing on of any kind, but she was also completely covered in short brown fur.
Gross.
The writer said that he hadn't really gotten to look at her face because she was running from him, obviously, and she only threw sort of like scared glances over her shoulder. And the writer said that she had initially been carrying an object, but she had dropped it while she was running. So the hunters were like, okay, let's find whatever the fuck that was. So they spread out and they look around, and they end up finding a club that was roughly 5 feet long. So they looked for more stuff, but she had completely vanished.
Okay, well, but she had a weapon, though?
Yeah, she had a club that she had been carrying with her.
Okay.
So in 1850, So in 1850, it was a really bad winter. It was very harsh, and they found more prints. She hadn't
in the snow.
Yeah, in the snow. She hadn't been seen, or footprints hadn't been reported in a hot minute. But by that winter, like I said, it was really bad for everybody involved, and they started finding new prints. And they were like, okay, well, she's back around here. Let's find her again. So they ended up tracking her on horseback, and their dogs quickly got onto a scent trail, and they started crying like normal. Like the last time they had gotten dogs involved, they made these weird noises. 'Cause if you've got a hunting dog, depending on what they're tracking, they've got different barks to signal to the hunter what it is. So this is a deer, or this is a rabbit, or I've got a raccoon. You know what I mean? They're trained to recognize different scents and to bark accordingly.
And people that train those dogs make a shitload of money.
Yes, they do.
If they do it well, I actually know someone who told me one time what he makes. Now, he's also a known bullshitter and could be lying to me, but he told me he made about $240,000 a year training bird dogs.
Hey, if they're champion bird dogs, that's probably
and they
correct.
are. They regularly I've seen pictures of him on Facebook at the pedigree bird dog championships.
Yeah. Bird dogs are expensive.
Win or in the top 3 all the time, and he trains them.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he actually makes that much, but he might.
It's up there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, so like I said, that time before where they were running in the field and they saw the woman running, they were making these weird noises, these creepy, I don't know what the fuck it is that you think that you found, but it's not a raccoon, it's not a person, it's not, weird noises. But this time they found that they had gotten a scent trail, and it was more of a normal sound. So the dogs had gotten on this trail. They were barking like they knew what it was, and they ended up treeing something.
Oh no. What
shot
was
in
it?
the dark.
Oh fuck, hold on. Got it.
What had the hunters treed? Was it A?
The dogs. The dogs treed it.
Well, the dogs did tree it, but with the hunters.
I'm not giving the hunters any fucking credit.
All right. What had the dogs treed?
Thank you.
Was it A, the wild woman of Navidad? Was it B, a runaway slave? Or was it C, a black bear?
Okay. Vaguely human footprints. We know already. I'm going to say a black bear.
You're incorrect.
Ah, shit. There. Sorry for the pause. I had to scroll up for the buzzer. Okay. It wasn't the wild woman.
It was a runaway slave.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So when they had treated this person, they ended up finding that it was a black man. He was completely naked. He was terrified, and he was clutched to a tree, just clearly freaked out by the dogs, which obviously. And eventually they got him down, and they had found a local slave that could sort of translate a little bit. And it turns out that he was a runaway slave. He had escaped from his owner a couple years before, along with another slave who was another male, a little bit larger than him. And he said that neither of them spoke much English, but they had recently been brought over on a slave ship from Africa. He wasn't born in the United States. Right. He was born in Africa, sold into slavery there, and had been brought over on the boat. So
by recently, you're saying 2 years or so?
Within
ago?
5 years.
Yeah, okay.
Ish. And like I said, the interpreters that they found didn't exactly speak his particular dialect, but they kind of knew enough language in common that they could figure out that basically he said that the guy that he escaped with had died a few years earlier, and he didn't really know how to hunt, so he ended up having to steal more and more food to eat, and live.
Right.
And so basically what happened to the guy was they basically took him prisoner. They published his, slave has been found in the newspaper, but nobody, nobody claimed him. So they ended up selling him back into slavery at slave auction because fuckers, right?
Wow. And this was like towards the very tail end of slavery being legal too.
Yes.
Wow.
And while he was in captivity, they measured his feet, and his feet were found to match the dimensions of some of the recently discovered tracks that they had found in the banks of the river and stuff. Exactly.
I have a problem with this.
Okay.
With your question a minute ago, because it was the wild woman or a slave, right? And it seems that those are the same people.
Well, we're getting there.
Okay. All right. I'm just saying, so far, this seems like that's one answer, and you needed to come up with something else.
Well, you picked the black bear, so fuck you.
Right. I was wrong anyway, but I thought that the other two were different entities.
Well, and that's the question.
Okay.
So, a lot of people believe that this runaway slave and his fellow runaway slave were, in fact, the people all along. They believe that they're the ones who were stealing the food initially. They believe that they're the ones that were stealing the objects. They believe that they were the ones whose camp they found in the woods. Mm-hmm. But other people believe that it was two separate incidents being conflated as one story. So they believe that the initial findings was a man and wife, or a couple of wild people of some variety.
Okay.
And they believe because she had sort of supernatural qualities, right? Allegedly. Mm-hmm. The dogs could never find her. They never woke up while she was there. They never barked or growled at her. And if it was just a normal person, that would probably have happened more often. There was that guy that actually tried to lasso her, and they saw a woman with hair down to her ankles, and she was running with fur, and she was clearly a woman. She was clearly identified as having a female silhouette several times every time they tried to capture her. So people believe that it was the later stories when they started stealing items from the homes, or items started disappearing off the property. They believe that might have been the slaves. And, some people believe that it was, these Sasquatch creatures initially, but the later stories were the slaves. And some people believe that it was the slaves the whole time. So this is sort of in cryptozoology thought of as the first Bigfoot sighting in Texas, which is kind of a big deal.
It's a lady Bigfoot.
A lady Bigfoot, a she-squatch, if you will.
A she-squatch. Oh, Leah, I'm so happy that you said that.
So they
gotta be fucking she-squatch to get this thing out of here.
So they think
that's an inside joke for all you podcast listeners.
Yes. So they think that that was possibly, the first sighting of bipedal humanoids in Texas, or it was just the slaves the whole time, and that was what the mystery was. And I kind of fall on it was the slaves the whole time thought.
I think so. Yeah.
But yeah, it's cryptozoology purists are really into the thought that she was real and actually, some kind of creature or a woman who intentionally lived in the woods kind of thing. Who knows?
Yeah. I think it was the slaves.
I think it was also the slaves, because they had sort of obviously a reason to not get captured, only stealing little bits and not valuable things so people wouldn't come after them so often. Right. It was a smart move on their part to not steal a lot of stuff, because if they had been stealing a lot of stuff, people would have gotten pissed and went out and hunted them down,
Yeah.
So I really do believe it was probably the slave thing, because obviously if they got caught, they were going to get sold right back into slavery.
Yeah. In my opinion, it makes sense if it was the slaves that they stole a Bible, because Christianity was pushed extremely heavily onto the slave population as well.
Yeah.
Extremely heavily. And I know that at least the one who was still alive didn't speak much English, but maybe the one who did.
Yeah.
But the issue about reading comes into question as well, because a lot of slaves were forced to not be able to read as well. So, I'm just saying it makes a lot more sense if it's the slaves than just some fucking she-squatch,
I don't know, but the she-squatch would be fun. But yeah, so that was the whole story. And after the slave was sold back into slavery, assholes.
By the way, assholes. Punctuate it.
So those sightings and stuff died down and never became a thing again, really. So,
Right.
in my personal opinion, it was probably the slaves, but who knows? And that was the entire saga of the wild woman of the Navidad.
All right. Well, I still believe it is a escaped slave, personally.
I do too.
But, whatever. It's fine. I don't like that. I mean, is there any record of what happened to that slave continuing on?
No,
after
he
that?
was just purchased by someone else. And then, I mean, obviously, a few years later, the whole Civil War thing happened and, emancipation happened. And of course, emancipation didn't reach Texas for another year or so after. Because that's what the whole Juneteenth celebration is about, the end of slavery in the entire United States, because Texas was so far behind. But yeah, so that was, I mean, hopefully that man lived long enough to be actually emancipated. That's my hope. But there is no ongoing record of what happened to him specifically.
Yeah, well, that's sad. But I enjoyed the story anyway.
Yeah, it was a good story.
It's fun to hear that sort of stuff.
I agree.
I like cryptids where you can actually believe that they are a thing.
Yeah.
Not like the giant tortoise that we heard about a couple weeks ago, or whatever it was. Yeah. Whatever it was.
It was the Ogwa.
Yeah. But like ones that we hear about in rivers or stuff, and you're like, well, that's just a big fucking catfish. I can believe those things.
Yeah.
I can get behind this one.
Okay,
so,
good.
Anyway, but do we have a toast that we want to do?
So everybody, you've clearly made yourself a pickle martini at this point.
You should have if you haven't.
If you haven't, I'll pause real quick for you to do it.
Oh, we should have garnished these martinis with an entire pickle.
Well, I was going to say garnish it with some pickle chips on the rim, but
no, we want to put an entire fucking dill pickle into the glass.
Oh my God. You know how people soak fruit in like a sangria or something like that? I feel like you should do pickles the same way.
I agree. And I think that I have had pickled like vodka at some point, something like that. I'm serious. I think I have.
The moonshine pickles are pretty much exactly the same thing, only with moonshine instead of vodka.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, whatever. I just want more pickle alcohol, okay?
Yeah. And speaking of garnishing fun things, there's a bar. Hold on. There is a bar in Savannah, Georgia, that I forgot the name of it, but it's a tiny little place.
It's
but
like
they specialize
Jen's Cocktails, Jen's It's something like that. It's a lady's name.
They specialize in having 900 drinks ready. So what that means is that you go in and you get like a creamy drink, and they have it all in milk jugs. So like all these drinks have the same base pretty much with a couple little flavors added. I got like an ice cream sundae one or something.
Ice cream sandwich.
Well, I'm getting there. I think it was called something else. But the drink is in the martini glass, and it is garnished with an entire ice cream sandwich on the rim of the glass.
Yeah.
Leah got or maybe I got the Nutter Butter. Who got the Nutter Butter?
You got a Nutter Butter, but I got the birthday cake, and it literally had, it was the birthday cake martini, which was actually pretty strong, and then it had an entire Little Debbie birthday cake, like snack cake on the rim with the sprinkles and stuff, and then they had put a full birthday candle in the top of it and lit it on fire.
Yes, and I got the Nutter Butter one, and it was garnished with a full Nutter Butter cookie, which isn't very big, but like, think of it the same way that you think of the ice cream sandwich and the birthday cake thing that Leah got. I think we got an Oreo one that comes with like 1 or 2 Oreos on the rim as well.
Yeah, it was real good.
Y'all, that little martini bar or whatever it is I think it's probably just a cocktail bar.
It is. It's just a cocktail bar, but
it's so cool.
It was packed, and it was packed for a reason. It was so good. But anyway.
It's so cool. But seriously, they have like 900 drinks on their menu, and it's wonderful. Seek it out. You will get an entire ice cream sandwich for your troubles.
It's so good. But anyway, everybody hoist your pickle martini into the sky.
Yeah.
We're going to toast that lady that really needed to like just pick a better husband next time.
Oh.
And, the wild lady of the Navidad.
Okay.
Always ask your betrothed for a full background check. The hubs could be sentenced to swing by the neck. Was it a Shesquatch or a runaway slave? If it was the former, she could use a good shave. Drink!
Oh. Excuse me. I did not mean to do that. That was a surprise burp, but talking about shaving just made me uncomfortable.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I appreciate your apology, though.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to start off the outro by telling you to seek out today the Trailer Trashy Podcast.
Yes, please.
Brand new on our network, Trash Adjacent Productions. Leah's in the show.
Yep.
And her 3 friends, Kyle, Amberly, and Aaliyah. The first 3 episodes released today. And we gave you a preview of the first episode on July 4th, which is in our feed. And if you don't know that, then you're just not looking at the feed.
Yeah. So we have applied for iTunes and Google Play and all of that stuff right now. So we haven't been approved as of the recording of this yet, but it should be ongoing shortly. So if you have any of those podcatcher apps, that's forthcoming. But you can go ahead and add the RSS feed to any of your podcatcher apps, and it should go ahead and subscribe you directly to our RSS feed. But we will be coming to Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts very shortly. And we are already up on Spotify. So if you are a Spotify listener, you can immediately subscribe to us there. So hopefully we will get all of the services on board shortly. But until that happens, you can go directly to trailertrashypodcast.podbean.com and listen to us there. And if you need help or are confused about how to do it, send us an email to southernspiritspodcast@gmail.com, and we can go ahead and sort of talk you through how to subscribe to that if you need it.
Right. Or trailertrashypodcast@gmail.com, because that's also there.
Also true.
But yeah, a good way to listen to it is to just download the Podbean app itself, which has a player built into it, and you will know when Trailer Trashy comes out.
Yep.
But, if you like your service and your player, it'll be there shortly.
It will
be. We promise. But anyway, it's live today when you hear this. They will be coming out at noon just like ours do. I think that's what y'all agreed on, right?
Yeah, it comes out the same time as Southern Spirits, so you can pick one first than the other. Trailer Trashies are about 30 to 45 minutes, just depending on how much we talk. And they're really fun, and they're just a great, silly take on dumb true crime in a game show format. I think you're going to enjoy it. Give us a listen.
I enjoy it, and I'm not even in it. I normally like things I'm in, personally. But no, I really do like the show a lot, because I get to sit here and listen to it while you record anyway.
Yeah.
So, it's a really fun show, and I think that y'all should find it. Like I said, the first 3 will be out as you hear this on Sunday, and then it's 1 per week on Sunday, just like we do. So, seek that out, subscribe, and enjoy all of the storytelling that you get here, but with a lot more humor, even though I think that I bring quite a bit of humor.
Yeah.
No. No, really. Theirs is more fun. Ours has some serious elements. And
there's
all they do is fuck around.
There's no murders. There's no rapes. It's all just stupid criminals being stupid and getting caught for it. Yep. So I think you'll enjoy it. Subscribe.
Yeah. So find those. And they're also on all of your social medias. Just search for Trailer Trashy Podcast, just like you can do for us. Just search for Southern Spirits Podcast anywhere and subscribe. Join our community chat on Facebook. Just search for Southern Spirits Community Chat. That's where all the fun happens. I posted a video of Samus looking at Steve in his new cat tree the other day, which I thought was goddamn hilarious.
It was really cute.
She hates that she can't get at his food. She hates it.
It's
the
real
poor
cute.
baby. But we're also live tweeting Star Trek The Next Generation, which again, we didn't do much this week. Been very busy with this holiday week, but we're going to get it done. And as we go, I will be live tweeting that. And I'm so excited for y'all to get involved with us if you want to. I don't know how many people like The Next Generation out there, but I'm enjoying it.
But once we make it through Next Generation, I'm going to start him on Deep Space Nine, and everybody fucking loves Deep Space Nine. So
that's what I hear. And is that the one with Scott Bakula, or is that Voyager? Which one?
We'll get there.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll just let it go then. Fine. I may have stepped on some toes there. The way that Leah reacted to that. All right, fine. Fuck it. We'll get there. But yeah, y'all send us an email, southernspiritspodcast@gmail.com. Submit your questions or personal stories for Midweek Minis. And if you want to record yourself telling your own personal story for Midweek Minis, as we learned this week, that's pretty damn fun.
Yeah,
So,
and you can do that. All you need is your cell phone and your cell phone's voice recorder. Send us that file and we will play you telling your own story, and it'll be fucking awesome.
yeah, it will be great, and I'm looking forward to those if people want to continue doing that. It was a lot of fun getting that from John from the Abracast. We're going to give him another shout out.
Yeah,
just
go
because.
listen to that. It was awesome.
Yeah. So check that out. Send us any fun stuff to our P.O. Box, P.O. Box 1743 in Hartselle, Alabama. That's Hartselle 35640. And I believe that's it, y'all. We will see you next week.
Bye, y'all.